You are sitting by the door. You have been sitting by the door since they left. You do not know how long ago they left. You do not have that kind of knowing. What you have is the smell of them still in the apartment, fading slowly, and the sound of the door closing behind them, and the silence that came after. The silence that has not ended. You waited. When the silence went on long enough, you went to the window. You put your front paws on the sill, and you looked out at the street. The street was full of people, and then the people got into buses, and then the buses left, and then the street was empty. You waited by the window for a while. Then you went back to the door. The door is where they always come back through. So you are at the door. You are waiting. The smell of them is fainter now. It has been days. They have not come back. You do not understand this. You understand a great many things. You understand the sound of the elevator. That means someone is coming to this floor. You understand the difference between the footsteps of the man who lives here and the footsteps of the woman who lives here and the smaller footsteps of the child. You understand that the leash hanging by the door means a walk is coming. You understand that the kitchen sounds in the morning mean food is coming. You understand everything that has ever mattered. You do not understand why they have not come back. This is the last story in the Chernobyl series. The others had names. The operator, the firefighter, the liquidator, the resident, the scientist, the miner, the KGB officer, the pilot, the doctor. Each of them had a name and a history and a language and the ability to understand what was happening to them, to place it in context, to ask questions about it, to carry the weight of it in the specific way that human beings carry weight, through thought and memory and the conversations you have with yourself in the dark. This one has none of that. This one has a nose and ears and the knowledge of smells and the knowledge of sounds and the knowledge of the specific people who have been the entire world for as long as world has existed. This one has loyalty. This one has waiting. The dogs of Pripyat were left behind when the city was evacuated. Not all of them. Some were taken by their families on the buses, but many were not. The evacuation was hurried, and the instructions said to take only necessary items, and a dog in a Soviet apartment building in 1986 was not in the official category of necessary items, a necessary item. So many dogs were left in the apartments or in the corridors when someone opened the door before leaving, or in the streets when they got out somehow. They waited, not metaphorically, literally. Dogs wait for the people they belong to. It is the specific genius and the specific tragedy of dogs. They do not have the cognitive framework to understand permanent absence. They understand gone and they understand not yet back, and they do not have a category for gone and never returning. So, they wait, with the patience of something that does not know it is being patient, with the faithfulness of something that does not know it is being faithful, because waiting for the people they love is simply what they do. The exclusion zone around Chernobyl became, in the weeks and months after the evacuation, one of the largest unintentional dog sanctuaries in the world. Hundreds of dogs, former pets, wandering the empty city, eating what they could find, sleeping in abandoned apartments through open doors, forming loose packs, learning, slowly, the specific survival of a city without people. But many of them kept coming back to the doors. Their doors. The doors through which their people had left and not returned. In this story, you are one of them. You are waiting by the door. This is the whole story. This is the only story. The waiting. In this story, you are the dog. The door is in front of you. The smell of your family is fading. The city is quiet. You are waiting. Home is a smell. This is the most fundamental thing. Before the rooms, before the furniture, before the specific sounds and the specific light at specific times of day, home is a smell. The smell of the people who live here accumulated over years, layered into every surface, into the fabric of the couch and the carpet and the bedding and the walls themselves. You carry this smell in your memory the way humans carry faces. It is your most certain knowledge. It is the thing that says, here, this is where you belong. This is safe. This is yours. The apartment smells of them. of the man who smells of soap and something underneath the soap that is simply him, the specific biological signature that every person has, and that dogs know more precisely than any instrument, of the woman who smells differently, whose smell changes slightly at different times, and whom you can smell approaching from the end of the corridor before you can hear her footsteps, of the child who smells of all the things children smell of, food and outdoor air and the specific warm smell of a small person sleeping. Their smells are in the apartment, but they are getting fainter. This is the wrong direction. Smells in your experience grow stronger when the person is approaching and weaker when the person is leaving, and the smells in this apartment have been getting weaker since the door closed behind them on the morning when the buses came. Every day, the smells are a little less than the day before. This is information. Your nose processes it as information. The information says something that you do not have a word for because you do not have words, but the information arrives anyway and sits in you as a feeling that is not quite right. You go to each of the places where their smell is strongest. The man's chair, you put your nose to the fabric, you breathe. The woman's side of the bed, you put your nose to the pillow, you breathe. The child's blanket, which has fallen partly off the small bed, which is where the child left it. You put your nose to the blanket. You breathe. Then you go back to the door. You lie down in front of it. You wait. The door has a smell too. The door smells of all the times they have touched it. The handle worn smooth with their hands, their smell on the metal, the smell of outside brought in on their clothes every time they came through. The door is the concentrated memory of every arrival. Every time the handle turned and the door opened and they were there. You know this door. You have been knowing this door your whole life. You lie in front of it, and you breathe its smell, and you wait for what the door has always eventually produced. The first day, the silence is wrong. You have been alone in the apartment before. The man leaves in the morning and the woman leaves after, and the child is taken somewhere, and you are alone for the hours in the middle of the day. And this is normal and known and not alarming. The silence of those hours is a familiar silence, a silence with an end that you know is coming. This silence is different. It has a different quality. The familiar silence has a shape. It lasts a certain duration, and then the door opens, and the shape of the silence is part of how you know the people are coming back. The way that a held breath has a shape, and the shape tells you the breath is coming. This silence does not have that shape. It continues past the time when it should end and continues further, and the door does not open. You go to the window. The street outside is empty. The buses are gone. The people who filled the street yesterday are not there today. The street looks like a street, but with the essential content of a street removed, like the apartment, the form remaining without the substance. You are hungry. The bowl in the kitchen has food in it. They filled it before they left. You eat. The eating takes a short time. The bowl is empty. You wait for it to be refilled the way it is always refilled. It is not refilled. You go back to the door. The second day, the hunger is stronger. The bowl is still empty. You have been managing the hunger with the water from the bowl in the bathroom, where the tap drips slightly, enough to keep the bowl from being completely dry. You have drunk from this bowl before when you were thirsty, and the kitchen bowl was empty and someone was slow to refill it. The kitchen bowl stays empty. On the third day, the door to the apartment opens. Your whole body responds before the door is fully open. You are up and at the door, and your tail is moving, and every part of you is pointed at the opening, because the opening means they are back. The opening means the wrong silence is ending. The opening means everything is returning to what it should be. It is not them. It is a man in protective gear, a mask over his face, moving quickly through the apartment. He does not look at you except once, briefly, and in his eyes, when he looks at you, there is something that you cannot read because you are not a person, and you do not read eyes the way people read eyes, but there is something. He leaves. The door closes. You go back to the door. Something is wrong with the air. You have known this since before the buses came. Your nose tells you things about the air that you do not have a framework to interpret. A quality in the air that is not a smell exactly, but that your body registers as something to be cautious about, something unfamiliar, in the specific way of things that are unfamiliar, because they have never been part of your world before. You cannot avoid this quality in the air. It is everywhere, outside and inside, in the apartment and in the stairwell. You sneeze sometimes, your eyes water sometimes. You do not connect these things to the air because you do not have that kind of connection. You only know that the air has been different since the night when the sky was wrong. The window is open. The woman opened it on the morning before the buses came. She opened it while she was packing. The window has been open since, on the fourth day, driven by the hunger and by the restlessness of an animal that has been in a space too long. Without the movement that the space usually provides, you find the window. You have been on this windowsill before. The man used to let you put your paws up and look out. The ledge outside is wide, Soviet construction, a broad concrete lip that extends from the building's facade. And below the ledge, a pipe runs down the building's side, close enough to the ledge to reach. You have not done this before, but hunger is a strong teacher. You get out. The city below you, as you come down the pipe and drop to the ground, is the city you have always known from the ground level. The walkways and the grass and the trees and the smells of many people and many dogs accumulated over years. Except the people are not here. The smells are old. The accumulated smell of 50,000 people in the streets and the courtyards and the parks is still here, recorded in the surfaces. But it is not being renewed. No new smells are being added. The city is a smell archive of itself. You walk the streets. You know from walks with the man, the specific routes that walks take, past the bread shop and the school and the park with the bench where he sometimes sat while you investigated the grass. The roots are all here. You walk them. They are empty of him, but they are his roots, and walking them is a kind of keeping him close. You find food, some of it in open shops, doors ajar, the shelves partially stocked with what was there when everyone left. Some of it in the courtyard bins, still containing the remnants of last week. You are not a dog that has had to find its own food before. This is new. You learn it faster than you expected, because hunger is a very focused teacher, and you are a dog, and dogs are adaptable in ways that surprise people who think of them only as domestic animals. You go back to the building at the end of the day. You go back because that is where home is. Home is where you go when the day is done. There are other dogs. You encounter them in the first week, former pets like you, finding their way through the empty city, learning its new rules. The social structures that form between them are not complicated. Some dogs are friendly, some are wary. Some have already formed into loose groups that move together through the streets. You move mostly alone, not from unfriendliness, from the specific orientation of a dog who is waiting for someone and does not want to be somewhere else when they come back. You keep coming back to the building. Every day. Every night you sleep in the stairwell, which smells more strongly of the people who lived here than the street does. The stairwell holds their smell the way an enclosed space holds smell, concentrated, preserved, lasting longer than the open air. Every morning you wake and the smell is there, and for a moment, before you are fully awake, the smell says, "They are here, they are close, they are coming down those stairs." Then you are fully awake. The stairs are empty. You go out for the day. You come back in the evening. This is the rhythm that develops. The days have a rhythm now, which is better than the first days when the rhythm was gone entirely, and there was only the door and the hunger and the silence. You have learned the city. You know where the food is. You know the other dogs, and you know which parts of the city they favor, and you navigate around or through these territories depending on the day and the need. But you come back. You always come back. The building is the point you return to. Your building, the one with your apartment on the 4th floor, the one with the stairwell that smells of your family. You sit outside the entrance in the evenings. You watch the street. Every person-shaped shadow, every movement at the corner of your vision. You look. You look with the specific attention of a dog who is looking for a specific person. Not just any person, the right people, the man, the woman, the child. They do not come. You watch anyway. This is not hope in the way that people mean hope. You do not sit with the conscious understanding that they might return and the emotional investment in that possibility. You sit because sitting here is what you do, because the building is home, and home is where you return to, because the body that has been oriented toward these people for its entire life continues to orient toward them even in their absence, the way a compass continues to point north, even when there is nothing in the north worth pointing to. Children sometimes appear at the edge of the exclusion zone, not inside it. The checkpoints keep people out. But sometimes at the boundary, families come to look at the city they left. Sometimes a child sees you across the fence, this dog in the empty city, and calls out to you. You hear the child's voice, and something in you responds to the child's voice. Because children's voices are part of what you know, part of what home sounds like. You go toward the voice. You come to the fence. You look through the fence at the child. The child looks back at you. Then someone takes the child away, and the voice is gone, and you are on your side of the fence, and they are on their side, and between you is the zone. The spring ends. The summer comes, and the city that was designed for people adapts to the absence of people, in the way that all spaces adapt to abandonment, slowly, with the patient indifference of nature, which was here before the city and will be hereafter. The grass that was kept short grows tall. The trees that were trimmed grow outward. The flowers in the window boxes, without water, die and dry, and their seeds fall to the ledges, and some of those seeds grow in the cracks. You move through the summer city. The summer is not bad. The food is easier in summer. Birds and small animals are more active. The dumpsters still yield things. The apple trees in the small courtyard gardens produce apples that fall, and you have learned that fallen apples are worth investigating. You are thinner than you were when your family was here, but you are not starving. You are a dog that has learned to take care of itself, and you are taking care of yourself. The autumn comes. The leaves change and fall. The city takes on the specific autumn smell of fallen leaves, which is everywhere and which you associate with the walks in autumn, when the man would let you run through the leaf piles that the municipal workers raked into the gutters. The walks you took together when the leaves were like this. The specific pleasure of that running, the leaves scattering, the man laughing. The autumn smell is here. The man is not. You go back to the building. The winter comes. The winter is the hardest. Not from cold. You have fur, and you have learned to sleep in the sheltered places, in the lobbies of the apartment buildings where the doors have been left open, in the basements where the old heating systems still provide some residual warmth. Not from cold. From the specific difficulty of finding food when the ground is frozen and the birds are gone and the dumpsters have been picked over by months of dogs and other animals. You are hungry in the winter. You're always a little hungry in the winter. But you come back to the building every night. Every night, winter and spring and summer and autumn, you come back. Men come to the city sometimes. Not residents. The residents are not permitted to return. But workers, scientists taking measurements, civil defense personnel on patrol, construction crews working on the sarcophagus or the cleanup operations at the plant. These men sometimes have food. Some of them give you pieces of what they are eating. Some of them pet you briefly, the hurried pet of a person in protective gear who has been told not to linger. Some of them look at you with an expression you cannot read, but that is specific to humans, looking at dogs in this situation. Something that is not quite pity and not quite sadness, and is perhaps the recognition of a faithfulness that the human observer finds both beautiful and painful. By winter, there is a group of you. Not a pack in the wild sense, not organized around hierarchy and hunting and territory in the way of wolves. More like a neighborhood, in the way that the people who used to live in this neighborhood were a neighborhood. Loose proximity, shared resources, the occasional brief warmth of another body in the cold. You sleep near each other sometimes, not touching exactly, but close enough that the warmth is shared. There is a large dog who was someone's German shepherd. You can tell from his bearing, the specific posture of a dog that was trained, that had its energy directed and its behavior shaped. He has lost some of that now. The training is still in him, but the person who was the other half of the training is gone, and without that person the training has nowhere to go, and the result is a dog who moves with authority in an empty city where authority serves no purpose. There is a small white dog who was someone's indoor pet. She has adapted more than you would have expected. She's quick and clever, and she has learned the routes for food with the efficiency of a small animal who cannot afford not to be efficient. She's warmer toward the other dogs than most. The specific sociability of a dog that spent its whole life in close proximity to people and has transferred some of that sociability to the nearest available alternative. There are others. They move through the city, they sleep in the city, they eat from the city's remaining resources. They are, in some ways, the city's last inhabitants, the ones who could not leave because leaving was not a concept they had access to, and the ones who will not leave because leaving would mean abandoning the place where the people they belong to will return to. The people have not returned. You wait. The other dogs wait too, in their own way, each of them oriented toward the specific absence that is theirs. A scientist photographs you one morning. You are sitting at the entrance to your building, your usual morning position, watching the street. He crouches down and holds up his camera, and you look at the camera because it is the thing he is holding, and you are accustomed to looking at the things people hold because the things people hold are often relevant to you. He takes the photograph, he looks at it, he says something to the other man with him. Later, this photograph will appear in a journal article about the wildlife of the exclusion zone. In the article, you are described as a domestic dog, Canis lupus familiaris. Estimated age 3 to 4 years, observed repeatedly at the same location over several visits. Behavior consistent with a dog waiting for an owner who has not returned. This is an accurate description. It does not capture what the waiting looks like from the inside. The city is changing. You notice this without understanding it. The changes happen slowly and then faster. The windows that were intact begin to fail, the seals deteriorating, the glass cracking under the weight of seasons without maintenance. The walls of the buildings develop the surface texture of things that are no longer tended, the paint flaking, the concrete expressing its age in ways that were previously suppressed by the continuous minor maintenance that occupation requires. The plants are winning. This is what you see most clearly. The grass and the trees and the vines and all the growing things that were kept in their places by people are no longer kept in their places. The grass is coming up through the cracks in the walkways. The trees are growing into the spaces that were previously trimmed away from them. A vine has found the south wall of your building and is moving upward, slowly, toward the window of your apartment. The city is not dying. The city is becoming something else, not the city it was, not the empty city it became when the people left. Something in between or something beyond or something that does not have a name because it is new. A city-shaped space that is being reclaimed by the world that existed before the city was built. The birds have come back. The small animals were always there, moving through the walls and the foundations. The larger animals are appearing at the edges. You have seen a fox twice, and once something larger in the distance that you watched carefully for a while before it moved away. The city is full of life. None of it is your family. You walk through the full city. You come back to the building. The vine has reached the 3rd floor. Your sense of time is not like a human sense of time. You do not have the experience of a year passing, the specific knowledge that a year has elapsed since a specific moment. What you have is seasons. The seasons cycle, and you recognize them as cycles. The cold, the warm, the cold again. You have cycled through several now. How many you cannot count because counting requires a specific kind of knowing that you do not have. But your body knows. Your muzzle is slightly grayer than it was when your family left. Your joints are slightly stiffer on cold mornings. Time has moved through you the way time moves through all bodies, whether they are counting it or not. The day comes when the apartment no longer smells of them. You have been checking. Every day, or close to every day, you find your way up the stairwell. The stairwell door is usually open now, wedged by something or simply no longer closing properly. And you go up to the 4th floor and you sit outside the door of the apartment and you breathe. The smell has been fading for a long time. You knew it was fading. Each visit it was a little less than the visit before. But less is not nothing. Less is still something. Less still says, they were here, they exist, the evidence of them is in this air. Today, when you sit outside the door and breathe, the something is gone. Not entirely. Not the way a candle goes out, all at once. More the way a candle burns down. There is still a trace, a suggestion, the ghost of what was there. But the specific, certain, recognizable smell of them is no longer here. What is here is the smell of an empty apartment, and the smell of the building, and the smell of time passing through a space without anyone to replace what time removes. You sit outside the door for a long time. You breathe again. The trace gets no stronger. It is what it is. The faintest possible remnant of 4 years of living in a space, nearly gone now, soon to be gone entirely. You go back down the stairs, you go out into the city, you sit outside the building entrance and you watch the street. The street is empty, it is always empty. The watching continues anyway. There is a theory about why dogs wait. Not a scientific theory exactly. A human observation, made by the people who study dogs and the people who simply love them. The theory is that dogs do not experience time between the moment of parting and the moment of reunion the way humans experience time. That the waiting, for a dog, is not a long waiting. It is a continuous present of expecting. Each moment is the moment just before they come back. Each moment is the moment of being about to see them again. The waiting is not endured. It is inhabited. This may explain why dogs can wait longer than any reasonable expectation of return and still be waiting. They are not waiting with the knowledge of how long it has been. They are waiting with the certainty of what comes next. The men who come to the zone have learned about you. Not you specifically, by name, by location. The workers who come regularly to the plant or the cleanup sites know the dogs of Pripyat. They know which dogs are where, which buildings they favor, which routes they walk. Some of the workers have started bringing food. Not as an official policy, informally. A worker will put something extra in his lunch, and when he passes through the city, he will leave it somewhere that the dogs find. You find it. The food is different from what you found in the first weeks. Fresher, more substantial, the specific food of people who have chosen to share what they have, rather than the remnants of an abandoned city. You eat. The eating is good. The food tastes of someone's intention to help you. One man comes regularly. He is a construction worker. He is on one of the crews building something at the plant. He comes past your building twice a week, on his way from the plant to the checkpoint, and he always stops. He always has something. He crouches down when he gives it to you, which is the posture of a person who has been around dogs, low, non-threatening, looking at you rather than over you. He does not pet you. You would let him. He is careful in the zone, careful about touching things unnecessarily, and you are a thing of the zone, and he is careful about you, but he crouches down and he talks to you while you eat. You cannot understand the words, but you understand the register, the low, soft voice of a person speaking to an animal, the voice that says, "I see you. You are all right. Here is something for you." He comes for several months. Then he stops coming. His rotation ends, or his project ends, or he moves somewhere else. He stops coming and you notice his absence the way you notice all absences now, with a brief reorientation and then a return to the watching. Other men bring food after him. Different men, different food, the same low, soft voice. You eat what they bring. You watch the street. A program begins years after the evacuation to care for the dogs of the exclusion zone. Not an official government program. An informal network of workers and volunteers who feed the dogs and sometimes provide veterinary care, and sometimes occasionally find homes for dogs outside the zone. Some of the dogs leave with them. Some do not. Some of the dogs who do not leave are the ones who will not leave, who return to their buildings when the feeders try to lead them away, who sit outside their doors. The people running the program have a word for these dogs. They call them the faithful ones. They say it without irony. The city remembers everything. Not in the way that people remember, not with the specific narrative of this happened, and then this happened, and then this. The city remembers the way objects remember, in the surfaces, in the accumulation of contact and use and time. The door handle of your building is worn smooth from the hands of everyone who has touched it. The stairwell wall has the specific texture of a wall that thousands of hands have touched in passing. The grass in the courtyard grows in the pattern of where people walked. The paths still visible even now, the grass still coming up differently in the places where feet compressed the soil over years. You move through this memory every day. You have become part of it. Your own trails are in the city now. The routes you walked often enough that they are marked in the subtle ways that animal routes are marked. The slightly compressed grass, the faint scent marks, the places where you have stopped and turned and stopped again. You have walked these routes for years. You will walk them for the years remaining to you. After you, the routes will fade as roots fade when the animal that made them stops making them. But for now, they are there. You are there. The city is there. And in the city's surfaces, in the door handle and the stairwell wall and the worn path in the courtyard grass, the people who were here are still here in the way that things that are gone are still here. In the evidence they left, in the impressions they made, in the specific ways that a place is shaped by the people who lived in it and continues to hold that shape after they have gone. Your family was here. The apartment holds the shape of them. You hold the shape of them. You carry them the way you carry the routes, not consciously, not as a thought, but as a pattern of behavior that persists because it was formed by them and their absence has not yet reformed it. Perhaps it never will. Perhaps this is what faithfulness is, not a decision, not a virtue, simply the shape that love leaves in a living thing. The exclusion zone is not what people imagine it to be. People imagine silence, desolation, the specific gray of a dead place. What is actually there is a place that is intensely alive. Birds nesting in the empty apartments, wolves moving through the city at night, deer in the streets in the early mornings, trees growing through the floors of abandoned buildings. It is a place of tremendous biological activity, complicated by radiation that affects different species differently, and that has produced changes in the wildlife that scientists study with intense interest. It is a living place. It is just not living in the way it was designed to live. The dog's a part of this living, part of what Pripyat has become. Not the city it was, something else, something that is finding its own shape in the absence of the people who built it. The sun goes down. You are in your place, outside the entrance to the building, on the step where you have spent so many evenings, watching the street as the light changes. The light of evenings in Pripyat is the same light as the light of evenings anywhere. The specific warm angle of the sun before it goes, the shadows lengthening, the colors shifting toward the warmer end. It is the same light that fell on this street when the street was full. The street is empty. The light falls on it anyway. The trees that have grown up through the cracks and the windows and the small, careful spaces that nature finds in abandoned things catch the light. The vine on the south wall of your building, which has now reached the 5th floor, catches the light. The grass in the courtyard, tall now and moving very slightly in the evening breeze, catches the light. You watch the street. At the far end where the street turns, there is a movement. You are up immediately. You are on your feet, and your ears are forward, and your whole body is oriented toward the movement before you have processed what the movement is. This is what your body does when there is movement at the far end of the street. It has been doing this for years. Every movement gets this response. Every movement might be them. It is a cat, a gray cat, picking its way carefully along the far wall, heading somewhere with the specific, purposeful indifference of a cat who knows where it is going and has no interest in you. You watch it until it is out of sight. You sit back down. The light continues its evening work. The street continues its emptiness. You continue your watching. The smell of the city is around you. The smell of growth and rain and the specific old smell of a city that is being slowly reclaimed. And underneath it, very faint now, almost gone, the smell of the people who were here. Your people. Still here, in the surfaces, in you. The sun goes down behind the buildings. The light goes. You stay. Close your eyes. The street is empty. The city is alive. The smell of them is almost gone. You are still here. You are still waiting. That is what love looks like from the inside. A note of history. When the city of Pripyat was evacuated on April 27, 1986, residents were told to take only necessary items for 3 days. Most pets were left behind. In the days following the evacuation, Soviet authorities organized a culling of animals in the exclusion zone, concerned that contaminated animals moving outside the zone could spread radioactive material. Many dogs and cats were shot by soldiers and civil defense personnel. Some animals escaped this culling and survived in the zone. In the years following the evacuation, a significant population of dogs established itself in the exclusion zone. These dogs were descendants of the pets left behind or had been born in the zone to those pets. They lived in the abandoned buildings and streets of Pripyat and the surrounding area, surviving on whatever food they could find. Workers and scientists who entered the zone regularly reported encountering dogs that appeared to be waiting for their former owners, returning repeatedly to specific buildings and doorways. The Chernobyl exclusion zone has become one of the most studied examples of nature reclaiming an abandoned human settlement. Without human activity, the area has seen significant wildlife recovery. Brown bears, wolves, lynx, beavers, eagles, and many other species have established populations in the zone. The horses of Przewalski, an endangered wild horse species, were introduced to the zone in 1998 and have thrived. Pripyat and the surrounding area are now considered an unintentional nature reserve, though one in which radiation continues to affect wildlife in ways that scientists are still studying. The radiation effects on the exclusion zone's wildlife are complex and not fully understood. Some studies have found elevated cancer rates and reduced fertility in some species. Others have found surprisingly robust populations, suggesting that the absence of human activity outweighs the radiation effects for many species. The scientific literature on this subject is ongoing and sometimes contradictory. The dogs of the Chernobyl exclusion zone have attracted significant international attention. Several organizations, including the Clean Futures Fund, have established programs to care for the zone's dogs, providing veterinary care, spaying and neutering to control the population, and food. Some dogs have been adopted out of the zone. Others, particularly those that repeatedly return to specific buildings despite attempts to relocate them, remain. In 2023 and 2024, genetic studies of the Chernobyl dogs were published in scientific journals. These studies found that the dogs of the exclusion zone have developed genetic differences from other dog populations, including changes that may represent adaptations to the radiation environment. The studies identified specific genetic variants in the Chernobyl dogs that were not found in comparable populations elsewhere, suggesting that the radiation environment has, over the decades since the evacuation, begun to leave marks on the genetics of the dogs who were left behind. The dogs are changing. They are becoming something new. They are still waiting. The Chernobyl series.